Okay, Paul.
All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy September. We're starting into the fall season, and we've got a special treat today. I've been excited about this for months as we first started talking. I've been around a long time, and it's very rare to see a truly disruptive technology in the LOS space. And today, you're going to get to see one. With us today, we have the team from Wilqo, and we have Larry Huff, the director, and Lori Kraus, the senior solutions engineer. And they are going to show you the LOS platform, Charlie. And I think you guys are going to really be intrigued by what this does. I saw a demo of this several months ago and was absolutely floored. So, in the interest of time, I am going to hand it off to Larry Huff, the director. He's going to give you a little bit of an introduction, and then Lori will introduce herself, and we're going to dive right into this. So, Larry and Lori, good morning, and thank you so much for being on this webinar for the Massachusetts Mortgage Bankers Association and Paul's LOS Lounge.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Good morning. Thanks for having us. I appreciate it. Like Paul said, I'm Larry Huff. I'm one of the co-founders of Wilqo. 2 seconds on my background. I and my business partner, Yvonne Darius, founded Optimal Blue some 6 years ago. Left there several years ago. Then we decided to join forces with Ty Jenkins at DocuTech, who also began his mortgage tech career about the same time we did, exited a few years after we did, and we decided to start this passion project we now call Wilqo. The product's known as Charlie. To our board, we also added Jeff Benjamin, who was the EVP of Sales at Encompass or Ellie Mae or ICE, or however you want to characterize it, or almost since the beginning. So we have a really stellar team of technologists and mortgage business people that came together to try to attack this problem that we've known about for decades. So let me just give a little bit of background on what makes Charlie, our product, unique. It all starts with architecture. Contemporary architecture is what enables all of the unique elements that Charlie's capable of. The other thing that we decided to do from the beginning was unify the system. That means we have the functionality of the POS, the LOS, and the business intelligence or reporting all in one unified platform. And that's a considerable change from the historical forms-based linear, one person at a time in a file architecture. So the key is architecture. What it enables is a much more atomic approach to the problem. We can take the problem of processing a loan, which we know is complicated, compliance ridden, and expensive, and break it down into the most atomic level. Once you have these problems broken down into the most atomic level, you can attack them much more differently. It's no longer linear. You can now do things in parallel. So you can, what you can't automate, you can allocate to a human in the loop in a task queue, if you want to call it that, where they're able to take that particular activity, say, for example, review an appraisal or review a W-2 if we can't do it through automation, which we can do a lot more of that through automation now. Do those things in parallel. So you can break the problem into small pieces, put them into a parallel flow so that multiple people can be in the file, working on the file at the same time. This reduces your costs dramatically. Obviously, the time savings should be evident, and then allows the right allocation of costs to the skill level needed for the task at hand. So it sounds kind of simple, but it really changes everything you do. It enables us to use AI and tools that you couldn't use previously. Most conventional systems are at least 20 years old. The architecture is very dated. They're SQL-based databases. They're essentially, we're state of the art 20 years ago, but not today. They're not easy to add functionality to. They always constrain you into that linear forms-based flow. Doing that, all you can do is bolt on things around it to make it a little bit better, which incrementally can improve the process a little bit, but also adds overhead at the same time. So to really re-attack the problem and do it in a contemporary workflow fashion, we had to start with architecture. And that's what we spent the first couple of years doing, is just building the platform that allowed us to create this atomic task-based workflow that's embedded with AI throughout the process.
Excellent. Lori, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure thing. I'm a senior solutions engineer, so I will be showing you the Charlie today. I have spent my whole career in the mortgage industry, over 30 years before I moved into tech, and was there for 10 years at Ellie Mae Ice before I came over here about a year and a half ago, once I saw how truly transformative tech could be for our industry and what a difference it really could make. I started in mortgage, doing everything from the ground up, from origination, processing, underwriting, closing. I owned 2 different mortgage companies and then ran operation centers for several national independent mortgage bankers. So been around for a minute or two, and again, I'm over here for a reason. It's really exciting stuff.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's dive in.
All
Yeah,
right.
probably the best way to experience is just to see it. There's a lot here. Obviously we could spend hours going through this thoroughly. We'll try to highlight the things that may be most obvious and impactful, but feel free to ask some questions, and we're happy to try to answer them real time if we can.
Absolutely. So again, I'm going to share my screen. Let me know when you can see me.
Yes, we can.
All right, excellent. So as Larry said, the best way to explain Charlie is to see it, because it's a different paradigm. It's a different way to do business, different way to think about doing business. And what all that does is it allows you options. It allows you options to do things the way you're doing them now, just better tools, or to completely upend the way you're doing things and become extremely more efficient. So the first thing you'll notice is that it's an easy on the eye, clean design. It focuses me not on necessarily a list of loans, although we'll see that in a minute. What it focuses me on is what I need to do based on who I am and my skill set. So not a list of loans where I have to pick one up, figure out what to do with it, go through the whole thing, figure out what to do next. But literally, what do I know how to do? What role do I play in the organization? And those tasks are then assigned to me automatically based on criteria in the loan file and based on things that need to happen then, whether it's a doc that just came in that needs to be reviewed, or in this case, as a loan officer, an application just came in that needs to be reviewed. Now, of course, we also have the list of loans, so we can sort and search this any way we'd like. We can locate loans that we need to. So we do provide that option for loan officers and for management to be able to see exactly where their pipeline stands. Another great tool that we've developed for loan officers is a structure loan tool. What this allows me to do is I've got someone on the phone quickly. I want to talk, he wants to find out what he might qualify for. So I'm going to put a few pieces of information in here. What you see is dynamically changing as I change details within the loan file itself. So maybe I want to put 20% down. I can do a dollar amount or percent. And you'll see what changes now as I do this. I put some income in here. And how are we looking from a DTI standpoint, from a qualification standpoint? Put that down payment back in there. And what this does is now give me a starting point. I can go multiple different ways from here. I can create the loan right from here. I can then invite the borrower to apply. I can discard it because they're not interested, or it's not going to work the way I need it to work. And I can discard that from here. So rather than in many of the systems where I have to have sort of a fake loan file that I'm using as my sandbox, we actually provide that sandbox for loan officers and make it really easy for them to start the loan. We can also use that within an existing loan file where I can say, okay, the borrower called me, we started at 20% down, now I want to go to 10. What's that going to look like from a qualification standpoint? So we provide those great tools for loan officers. But once that borrower has applied, so I structured the loan, I sent him out a link, he applied, we're going to see the borrower experience later on this morning. I immediately get, once that loan's been submitted, I immediately get an activity that says, loan officer, that borrower just applied, you need to take a look at it now. And so what that does immediately for each of our activities is open up a workspace that allows me to do my whole job in one place at one time. So here is the application review for a loan application that was submitted by the borrower, and on the loan officer, I got the activity, I click inside the activity, and it opens up my workspace for me. I see an overview of everything, all the details about this loan file, any documents that may have been received, so I don't have to go somewhere else to look for documents, any comments that might have been made back and forth between my teammates and I. And as I go down each one of these details, it's going to show me all of the details, and I can edit them as needed, depending on what the borrower provided and what I might have to add in. I can also order services. We have multiple different product and pricing engines already integrated, as well as verification services and credit reporting companies, of course, and all the AUS available options. We can run those, we can automate those. We have fee verifications as well, all the way down to and including being able to send out a pre-qualification letter. Now, because as Larry mentioned up front, we are one holistic solution. When I run this pre-qualification letter, with one click, I make it available to the borrower. The borrower is in the same loan file, in the same system, at the same time, just with the borrower UI and the borrower access rights. What this does for you is make it extremely convenient from a communication standpoint. I don't have to worry about downloading and uploading documents from the borrower to the borrower. I don't have to worry about missing data or data that doesn't match. It's always going to be the same because it's the same loan file. So with one click, I make that available to the borrower. When they log in, they're going to see that letter immediately available to them. So we save time and we make it very efficient for the loan officer as well as for the borrower as we go through. Now, once we're inside the loan file itself, I've got all the information that I need. So this is going to show me the overview of the loan file, a summary over here of all of the details that I need to know on the loan file, all right in front of me at the same time. Maybe I want to know a little bit more about that loan amount, how it's being derived. It's going to show me the LTV, CLTV, HCLTV here. And I've also got all of the details I need on this loan file one click away. If we look at the overview, it also shows me the details about AUS and disclosures and rate lock and fraud and compliance and pricing, anything I need to know here. Again, I can jump right into that screen. We also, for each one of what we call progress items, this is what details it for you. So you don't have the nebulous sort of the loans in process, which doesn't really tell me about anything, exactly where this loan stands. For each one of the progress items, we have all of the details that provide the data, which keeps me from having to flip through documents and figure this out. We provide all the data necessary. And again, we also provide the credit review. So for each one of the progress items, each one of the activities, we can break them down into, as Larry was describing up front, very granular pieces and push that down to the appropriate skill set instead of having to push everything up to our most expensive employees and our most expensive resources. So with the credit review, all I have to do is click on the credit review worksheet. That is going to, again, open up the exact workspace that I need to be able to do the full credit review. Now, this could go to anybody. This could go to somebody that you only spent a couple of hours training on how to review a credit report, because we not only provide the workspace, we provide the how-to. So you've got the description up here about what I need to do and how I need to do it. You've got the data that's been surfaced to me, so I don't even have to open up the credit report. However, I have the overview of the credit over here. I've also got all of the applicable documents for credit review. So the credit report is here. We can open it up and look at it as needed. But again, because we're surfacing the data, it's not necessary to open up the document. Now, the nodes for each one of these reviews and each one of the screens that we offer are dynamically generated based on the loan itself. So we don't teach people to skip over things. If the public records node shows up here, it's because there's public records, and it wouldn't show up if there weren't. So we surface what the borrower declared on their application, which is that he did not have any judgments. Well, come to find out he does, and that's what showed up on the credit report. So if I'm a credit reviewer, what do I do from here? I ask for additional information. All I have to do is click plus. It knows where I am in the file. It knows that I'm on the public records. So it offers me up the appropriate activities to request from the appropriate people, in this case, to the borrower, to say, we need a letter of explanation on that judgment. We've got the default language in here. Maybe I want to edit that and make it more specific if I'm allowed to. And then we send it right out to the borrower. Now, again, just like that pre-qual letter, it's immediately available to the borrower as an activity that they need to complete. This also keeps us from having to reword underwriting conditions, which, as we know, are a little not necessarily borrower friendly, because these activities are specific to borrowers. So it's going to be written for a borrower. It's going to tell them exactly what to do and how to do it. Now we also have even the more complex workspaces for someone like an underwriter. What this does is, again, give the underwriter one stop, one place to go to for everything that they need to be able to complete the whole underwriting process. Now, it would have shown up into my work queue based on what type of underwriter I am. Maybe I'm government, maybe I can underwrite anything. Maybe I'm a deal desk type of underwriter, and I'm only going to get the pre-qual requests that are sent into my queue. And the lender gets to decide what's going to trip these activities into the queues and whose queue it gets tripped into, based again on my skill set and what needs to actually be done. So again, this gives the underwriter a full overview of the loan, everything I need to see, details about the transaction, all of the documents, any activities that have been completed or are still outstanding, and then any comments, again, underwriting conditions also shown here. And as I go down the nodes, it starts to narrow down my view of what I'm seeing based on just that specific review that I'm doing. So from an asset standpoint, it shows me what's on the application and what's been verified, what's needed for reserves. It tells me exactly what to do and how to do it here. So all the details and the descriptions. And then it only surfaces the specific documents having to do with assets. So I don't have to go to a big E folder and sort and search and try to find the right one and the most available and the most current one. It's going to show me all the documents that are only related to this particular review, when I need to see it, and then also the status of those documents here. You can also see that there's a green check here for credit and liabilities. That means that it's already been signed off on. So it may be that in the lender's workflow, they decide that if this credit review has already been signed off on by the appropriate resource who's been appropriately trained, the underwriter, this can even disappear from the whole review. So we don't have checkers checking the checkers. If it's been done, it's been done, and we get to move on. That saves the underwriter time so that we have them focusing their time and attention on where they need to be with the more difficult files, and not spending an hour looking for large deposits on a bank statement. We can start pushing those types of activities down to the appropriate skill set as needed. And when we also talk about efficiency, we have what we call ICR. And what that does is provide automated workflow based on data that's extracted from the documents themselves. So as you see here, I've got a new loan, started as a TBD, no property address, and it shows me that I've got 5 of 6 TRID items that have been tripped. I'm still missing the property address. The system also automatically generated a request for a purchase contract to be uploaded once the borrower does actually find that property that they're looking for. So by uploading this document, now it could be the borrower who's uploading it through the portal. It could be the loan officer who's uploading it, as I am here as the loan officer. And then once we classify and extract that data from the loan file, it is now going to add in the details from the purchase contract itself. So it's literally taking the data from the purchase contract, and it is now adding that into the fields, the appropriate fields in the loan file, including the property address. Now, in most systems, that purchase contract gets uploaded and it sits in a loan file till someone has a chance to look at it. Well, that purchase contract being there means you have a TRID loan. And without somebody actually picking up the purchase contract and inputting that property address, you have a TRID loan without even knowing it. So you're at risk of having a non-compliant loan. When you have ICR technology extracting that data, it's immediately noted that I now have a TRID loan because I have a property address in here now. And that was the last step that I needed. So we go through, it gives not only that, picking up the data and putting it right into the loan file, but it also gives me the details. It categorizes the document. It names the document, and it assigns it a progress item like assets, income, property, that type of thing. So you can see that this has been extracted. It's been categorized it's been recognized as a purchase contract. It's been categorized as a property, and it's noted as received because it has been uploaded. Now, what this also does is save you all that time from when a borrower uploads that huge PDF of bank statements, pay stubs, W-2s, everything upside down, plus pictures of their kids and their cats. And someone's got to go in there and start sorting and searching and naming and categorizing those and then reviewing them. What the system does now is look at those, and if it is a picture of their cats, it's going to recognize it as unclassified, and that's going to cue somebody to go in and look at that document and say, okay, system didn't know it was. In fact, we don't really need this. So again, it notifies you that you've got a TRID loan. What you saw over here also is that it changed from that 5 to 6 TRID tripped to disclosures are now due immediately just by uploading that sales contract. What this does now further is either automatically send out disclosures if that's what the lender chooses, or put it in a queue for your disclosure desk or the loan officer to make sure that it gets disclosed on time. All automated without anybody touching anything. You'll also notice that additional documents have been requested from the borrower because we now have a full application. So the lender can decide when these details are going to be requested from the borrower based on, again, details on the loan file. So I'm not going to ask for pay stubs from a self-employed borrower. The system knows it's self-employed, knows it's W-2, knows that they have bank statements that need to be reviewed. And once these documents are received, it immediately puts it into the queue of the appropriate resource to review them. As we saw with the credit report, immediately creates that workflow for the credit report reviewer. Same thing when it starts creating bank statement reviews, the borrower uploads them, the system recognizes that, extracts the data. If it needs to be looked at, it can be looked at by a person. The systems,
the key there
go
is
ahead.
if it needs to be reviewed. So
Exactly.
this can happen automatically. And if it has a high enough confidence interval, it no longer needs review. So I just want to emphasize that a lot of this happens automatically and progresses the loan through the process, and nobody had to touch anything, assuming the source of the data was reliable and credible.
Exactly. And the lender can also decide which confidence score level merits a person to look at it and which is okay to go, because it will give you the actual confidence score there. So maybe there's a coffee stain on it. I'm only 50% confident that these are the details in that W-2. We should probably get some eyes on that. So we've been talking about the borrower experience, and what we have, we're not just mobile friendly, we're mobile first. Everything we do is available on whatever device the user chooses to use. So I'm showing you the borrower's experience, but it could be the loan officer, it could be the underwriter, it could be a manager. No matter what device you're on, it's going to make sure that it's a good experience for whoever the user is and whatever it is that they're trying to do. Now, as a borrower, I have those requests that you sent me. I can snap a picture on my phone and upload those right into the activity. Once I complete that activity, it's then going to take it off my list of things to do. So as you see, nice experience for the borrower. It's intuitive questioning. So it's only gonna ask me the questions that are applicable based on the previous answer that I gave. So did I say it was purchase or refinance? If it's a refinance, is it a cash out or no cash out? Where is that property located? Is it a military borrower or not? Are you married or not? Dependents or not? And again, it's only going to ask the questions that are applicable to that borrower. This application flow is also completely configurable. So if the lender decides that they want to have multiple different flows, we can have an application flow that's for people who don't want to put anything into the internet. Here's my phone number, have a loan officer call me. We can also have a full ERLA flow so that every single field is out there, and then anything in between. And we can have multiple ones for the lender. So different loan officers operate in different ways. We can have different application flows for them as well. Now I always see exactly where I stand because again, I'm in the same loan file with you at the same time. So what this does is live time as you complete items and as you complete those progress items and as you upload documents or approve things or approve documents or as documents expire, all of those details are going to be fed to me so that I always know exactly what's going on and exactly what it is that you need from me at all times with no additional work from your side because you're just continuing down your workflow. Your workflow is tripping different activities into my queue. Again, based on my exact loan file, not a generic list of documents that are requested on all files. All right, that was a very brief overview. As I mentioned, we would love to spend lots of time with you. We'd love to do additional demos as you see fit. Larry's going to spend a little time talking about our native business intelligence and reporting that's also available natively within Charlie.
Excellent.
Thanks, Lori. Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that. It's hard to describe the differences and the advantages of a newly contemporary architected system. Well, some of the things you can see I want to highlight were the speed of transition of the pages, how the pages loaded dynamically. We don't have fixed form pages. Each page is created based upon the work that needs to be done by the person doing the work with the information they need to complete that task. So it may be very minimal, it may be more comprehensive. So those are some of the things that the architecture allows that you may not necessarily recognize. A few of the other things that it allows us to do is have tremendous configurability. As an example, a loan officer can create their own interview form in whatever level of complexity they want. The simplest, hey, just give me your name and phone number and I'll call you, all the way to a complete ERLA, all the way to including the information necessary to get disclosures out. You could even add underwriting up front if you wanted to. So it's very, very configurable down to each loan officer. Not that everybody wants to do that, but that's the capability of this system. As important, as I mentioned earlier, is the fact that it is a unified system. We have all actors can be at the loan and the loan, excuse me, at the same time if necessary. So we have the POS, LOS, and the business information or MI available in real time. People don't realize the discontinuity between an LOS and a POS is pretty significant. You can't always manifest all the features and the knowledge that's occurring in the POS, in the LOS, quickly into the management information systems. This is a distinct difference. And it may not seem like a lot because we're not used to that, but you can be alerted immediately through the MI system if something's out of specification or if something's about to expire and we have 1 day left and then your W-2s are no longer valid, and then set up a task to the borrower to remind them to either get the W-2 in or close the loan. So the flow of information without barriers creates an entirely different dynamic of the operations of the system from the lender's perspective, as well as the borrowers and the loan officers. Everything is real time. There's not another system that we're aware of that allows you to have that level of flexibility and capability. You can configure your own reports, any type of production operation reports. You can also do an export to a system like Snowflake or whatever you want to use. So, and there's no additional costs for the data management at all. So this is all a unified system that allows for complete awareness and the cause and effect of the information and data that's being utilized in the system in real time. It may not be that obvious to you, but we've done some studies just on the front end of the process, informing the borrower and the automation of these activities. We can save 2 or 3 hours per file just in the acquisition of the documents and the loan application itself. So you multiply that across all your loans and across all your loan officers, the savings are tremendous. So hard to demonstrate exactly in real time without a much more involved demonstration, but that's what allowing the data to flow through into the MI system in real time gives you the advantage and effectively, ultimately, the cost savings.
Excellent. I find this really intriguing how this is a completely different methodology. It's a paradigm shift for for what we do in the industry. And I have one question on that, and it's the change management, because there's going to be a lot of internal change for lenders. And what are some of the best practices or some of the considerations they should think about? And because it's so task-based and based on people's skills, what's
So a couple of things. It's a very fair question, and probably the number one issue we face is change management.
Mhm.
Everybody wants to change until they're confronted with it, and then it becomes a little more daunting.
Yeah.
And it really impacts the entire organization, which is even more impactful. I
Mhm.
think the best way to approach the problem is, as we add more and more customers, we're building out more and more basic templates. So when you come into the system, a lot of this is already pre-configured. And then you can say, hey, well, I'd rather do it a little bit more this way. And then we can modify it from a starting point. It's not a blank screen in a toolkit. It's a partially or fully pre-configured system. I think the other thing that allows us to do is we can change things very quickly. Again, none of the pages are static. They're all dynamic. So when you create something, you're really changing an activity or a flow or a result, not necessarily a form. And that way you're not locked into this rigid workflow that requires a precursor step and then, somebody to stare at something and make sure it gets done. Those things should be done all automatically where possible. But change management is the challenge. I think once people see the time savings and the cost savings, and we break it down into the incremental components, where each role walks through their particular area of concern or utilization, people become very comfortable with it. Once they see the automation and they realize they don't have to do nearly as much staring and comparing, that all the alerts are sent out automatically. We can send out texts, we can send out, emails to the borrower. It can upload data into the portal as it responds to that. And then activities are triggered and executed automatically. So once you see that, yeah, there's change, but the change is for the good, it just takes a little while to get used to it. It's like going from a rotary dial phone to an iPhone. It's a big jump.
And one of the things I would add to that is that lenders have taken two different paths. One is blow everything up and say, okay, we can't survive the way we're doing business right now. Here's the new flow. Where do you see yourself in this new flow? And then the other way is very incrementally changing it to say, okay, underwriter, you don't need to be looking for large deposits. We're going to take that skill set and assign it to someone else who can do that work for you. Processors, you don't need to be doing verbal verifications of employment. We're going to take that skill set and give it to this new kid we just took out of college and teach him how to come up in the industry on a much slower basis, because we can be very granular about the activities that we assign and the skill sets that are needed for that specific activity. You might have someone who has a generalized, like an old-fashioned processor type. They're going to have multiple different skill sets. So all different kinds of things are going to show up in their queue. But you might have, again, that kid that just got out of college that you just taught how to review pay stubs for a W-2 borrower and look for anomalies on them. That's all that's going to show up in their work queue. So they're not even maybe have a list of loans. They're only going to have their activities, and they're going to go activity by activity and complete those. So you can sort of ease people into it, show them, to Larry's point, how much easier it's going to be for them. How we're not trying to get rid of you. We're trying to use your expertise on a much better on a much more efficient basis where it's needed, not in these simple loan files. A simple loan file should not be taking the same path as a difficult loan file.
Right. Yeah. Old enough to remember, we used to have these things called refi waves.
Yeah.
And I see where onboarding, when you need to staff up, you can start and you can, if you're a depository, you can grab people from the branches you need for a very low skills, very low.
Exactly.
We're going to start here. You're going to do this. And really, because it's skills based and activity based, a lot of potential to make those rapid increases in volume a lot easier to manage as a lender.
Yeah, completely right.
Yeah, for those that don't want to go completely automated task-based from the beginning, we can ease you into it. You can start with a little bit more conventional process and flow, and then you start seeing, well, why am I doing this task repetitively when I can automate this? And once you see what AI can do, the agents that can execute those tasks that you're used to doing, as well as what they call ICR, which is the progression of OCR, optical character recognition, is now intelligent character recognition, because basically it's using AI and other tools, machine learning, and rules to identify, classify, extract data out of the documents at a much higher level of quality where possible. Like Lori said, sometimes you get a bank statement and it's got coffee stains all over it. There's not a lot you can do to automate that. But if it is automated, it can actually even say, oh, gee, I've checked your address across 3 different documents, your W-2, your pay stub, and your bank statement. It checks and it's clear. Or it can say, one of these aren't the same address. Put it in front of somebody to double check. So it's incremental, but it's obvious. And once you start to realize what it's capable of doing and the advantages of it, it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to go from my old standard transmission to my automatic transmission. That's a lot easier. I kind of like that, even though I was used to shifting those gears. Not so much anymore.
And being able to incrementally change is one thing. When I work with lenders as kind of going through a workflow or loan manufacturing assessments, okay, we'll come up with a roadmap, but it's not set here in stone and you're going to do this for 5 years. No, you have to be constantly evolving it depending on, oh, I find that this little fine tune it here, fine tune it there. And constantly, our industry constantly changes. Your workflow you should have that same philosophy for your workflow to take advantage of new opportunities.
Yeah, well, ideally, it's really simple. You should be able to be told what to upload, what the lender needs from the borrower, and either automate the acquisition of that data or those documents,
Hmm.
or provide those that are needed. And assuming it's a sort of a happy path loan with a great credit score and a reasonable LTV and sort of a day one certainty profile of loan, you shouldn't have to do anything. The system should do it all for you. It should recognize all the information, should validate the information, it should progress the loan all the way through disclosures and AUS up to some sort of AUS decision without anybody touching the loan. That's our goal. It's not
Hmm.
100% there yet, but that's the guiding light, and that's where we're heading. And it's very possible, but you need contemporary architecture to do that. You could never do it in a old forms-based SQL-driven system.
Hmm. And it's also nice to see because, there's some other folks that come up, but we have a brand new way of doing things, but it's coming from a pure technology based and it's not lenders. And you need to have lenders involved because you've been there, done that, and know what works and what doesn't. If you look at it just as an academic exercise in creating a new LOS, it's challenging.
Yeah, I think that's very true. We think we have a good blend. I started out in the mortgage industry and then stumbled into technology. My
Hmm.
business partner is a pure technologist. He was what they called he was a research fellow at Texas Instruments working on neural networks, which is sort of the precursor to AI.
Yep.
Our other business partner, Ty Jenkins, started out in mortgage and he did, DocuTech, automated, documents and
Hmm.
disclosures. And then we have just a bench full of people like Lori that have tremendous amount of mortgage experience. So, you got to have the technologists who understand technology blended with the right people who have the mortgage domain knowledge to try to come up with something that is novel and much more efficient.
Yeah. This is great. Lori, Lori and Larry, thank you so much for this. I get more excited every time you hear more about it. Mhm.
But we appreciate your time. It was fun being here. I know it's hard to imagine everything it can do. It would take hours to show everything, but Lori does a great job highlighting some of the more salient points. And we hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it.
Right. Well,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
having us, Paul.
All right, Debbie,
Yes.
I any questions out there? Anything in the chat?
Let me see. I am not seeing anything in the
Okay.
chat.
Okay.
So I think we are all set for that. And then we can also pass around contact information
Mhm.
for both as well.
Yep. And if anybody wants, we will have a video of this if you would so like it.
Perfect. Well,
Great.
thank you, everyone. You have a great rest of your Friday.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Bye
Thank
now.
you.
The
Bye-bye.
NENDC is coming up. We'll see you there.
Yes.
See you there.
All right.